Emily was a quiet girl who came from a small village. She had no father, and her mother had died when she was a child. Life had never been easy for Emily. She worked hard to survive. When she turned 18, she moved to the city to look for a job. She needed money to support her younger brother who was still in school. One day, she got a job as a maid in the house of Mr. and Mrs. Carter. Mr. Carter was a very rich man. He owned many companies and houses, but he was old and sick. Mrs. Carter was younger, proud, and always rude to Emily. She shouted at her for no reason, gave her little food, and made her sleep on the cold kitchen floor. Even though life in the Carter's house was hard, Emily never complained. She worked with a smile. She cleaned the big house every day, cooked their meals, and took care of Mr. Carter when he coughed or felt weak. Emily was the only one who truly cared for him. Sometimes, Mr. Carter would smile at her and say, "You have a good heart, child." Emily didn't care about money or gold. She just wanted to do her job well and help her brother. At night, she would hide under her blanket and pray to God. She would say, "Please let me be strong. Help my brother finish school. I can handle the pain." The other workers in the house laughed at her. They called her names like village girl and useless. But Emily kept quiet. She did not fight them. She believed that one day things would get better. Then one day something strange happened. Mr. Carter asked Emily to come into his study. He was sitting in a big chair, looking weak. His hands shook as he held a pen. He looked at her and said, "Emily, you have shown me love and care, more than my own family. I want to change something important." Emily didn't understand what he meant. She just nodded and helped him drink water. She didn't know that something big was about to happen in her life. That night, Mr. Carter called his lawyer. And from that moment, everything started to change. Mr. Carter sat with his lawyer, Mr. James, late into the night. His voice was weak, but his eyes were serious. He said, "I want to change my will. I don't have much time left. I've watched how everyone treats me, especially Emily." Mr. James was surprised. "You mean the maid?" Mr. Carter nodded. "Yes, that poor girl has taken better care of me than my own wife or anyone in this house. I want her to have everything." Mr. James blinked in shock. "Everything?" "Yes," Mr. Carter replied slowly. "The house, the cars, the businesses. Let it all go to Emily after my death." The lawyer knew this was unusual, but he had known Mr. Carter for many years. He respected his decision. They signed the new papers quietly. Mr. Carter told him to keep it a secret until after he died. Emily had no idea what was happening. The next morning, she served breakfast like always. Mrs. Carter threw the food on the floor and shouted, "Is this what you call tea? Useless girl." Emily cleaned the mess in silence. The other maids laughed. One whispered, "She thinks being quiet will make her rich." They all laughed louder. But Emily kept working. She smiled at Mr. Carter, who looked at her with soft eyes. He didn't speak much anymore, but he smiled every time she entered the room. Weeks passed. Then one cold morning, Mr. Carter did not wake up. Emily tried to shake him, but he was gone. He had died peacefully in his sleep. Mrs. Carter screamed when she heard the news. She cried, not out of love, but fear. She knew everything now belonged to her, or so she thought. The lawyer, Mr. James, arrived with a folder in his hand. All the family members and workers were gathered in the sitting room. Mrs. Carter wore all black and sat proudly on the sofa. Emily stood in a corner, wiping her eyes quietly. Mr. James cleared his throat and began, "This is the last will and testament of Mr. George Carter." Everyone leaned forward. The lawyer continued, "Mr. Carter has left his entire estate to Miss Emily Brooks." The room went silent. Mrs. Carter's face turned pale. "What? That's a lie." The lawyer calmly opened the signed papers. "It's all legal. Mr. Carter changed his will 2 weeks ago." The other workers gasped. Emily stood frozen, confused. Mrs. Carter jumped up. "Over my dead body. That poor village girl. Never." But it was the truth. Emily, the maid who had nothing, now owned everything. And the war was just about to begin. After the lawyer read Mr. Carter's will, everything changed. Emily stood in the middle of the sitting room, frozen. Her hands shook. She could not believe what she had just heard. She, a poor maid with torn shoes and second-hand clothes, now owned a mansion, cars, and businesses. But not everyone was happy. Mrs. Carter rose from the sofa like a roaring storm. "This is madness," she screamed. "How can a maid inherit my husband's wealth?" The other maids whispered in corners. Some looked at Emily with envy, others with anger. Only the lawyer stood calmly, holding the paper tightly in his hand. Emily tried to speak. Madam, I never asked for anything." "Shut up," Mrs. Carter shouted. "You must have tricked him. You poisoned his mind. You used witchcraft." Emily's heart broke. She had loved Mr. Carter like a father. She had cleaned his wounds, brought him food, helped him walk when his legs failed. And now everyone hated her for it. The lawyer spoke again. "Madam, this is legal. The will cannot be changed now. Emily is the rightful owner of this estate." Mrs. Carter glared at Emily with fire in her eyes. "You will regret this, you little rat." That night, the mansion turned cold. The lights in Emily's room kept going off. Her food was missing from the kitchen. Her shoes were stolen. The other maids refused to speak to her. They gave her dirty looks and whispered behind her back. Emily no longer felt like the maid, but she didn't feel like the owner either. She still cleaned up after herself. She still helped in the kitchen. She did not want to fight. She didn't want money. She only wanted peace. But Mrs. Carter had other plans. She called her lawyer the next day and said, "Find a way to cancel that will. That girl will not have what belongs to me." She also started lying to people in town. "That maid used charm on my husband. She's a gold digger." She planned this from the beginning. Soon, news spread. Strangers came to the gate to stare. Emily became a story. The maid who took everything. But even through the hate, Emily stayed quiet. She wrote a letter to her brother, telling him the truth and sending him money for school. She prayed every night, tears soaking her pillow. She didn't know that someone in the mansion was secretly watching her. Someone who knew the truth, and someone who would soon betray her. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the mansion grew worse. Emily tried to stay quiet, but her heart was tired. She still woke up early to sweep the compound and cook her own food. She didn't move into the master bedroom, even though it now belonged to her. She kept living in the small maid's room beside the kitchen. She told herself, "I didn't come for riches. I only came to survive." There was only one person who spoke to her kindly, Grace, one of the younger maids. Grace was always smiling and soft-spoken. She would bring food to Emily and say, "Don't mind them. You didn't do anything wrong." Emily trusted her. She thought Grace was different from the others. She even shared her pain with Grace at night when they sat outside. But Emily didn't know that Grace was pretending. Grace had a plan. She had been listening to Mrs. Carter. One night, she secretly went to her room and said, "Madam, I can help you get rid of her." Mrs. Carter looked up with interest. "What do you mean?" Grace whispered, "Emily trusts me. I know all her movements. If we can set her up, people will hate her. Maybe even the law will chase her away." Mrs. Carter smiled. "Good girl. Do it. And when it works, I'll reward you." So Grace went back to acting sweet. She gave Emily gifts. She helped her with laundry. She told her, "You are like a sister to me." Emily smiled, happy to finally have a friend. Then one morning, trouble started. The police arrived at the mansion with a search warrant. They said they had received a tip that Emily had stolen some important company files from Mr. Carter's office after his death. Emily was shocked. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said with fear in her voice. And the police searched her room. And inside her pillow, they found a brown envelope. Inside the envelope were documents that Emily had never seen before. Signed company papers, missing files, and legal notes. The police looked at her. "You're under investigation." Emily couldn't breathe. Her knees felt weak. "I didn't put those there. I swear. I didn't touch anything." But no one believed her. Mrs. Carter stood at the door, pretending to cry. This is the kind of girl my husband trusted? A thief. Emily looked at Grace, hoping for help. But Grace looked away. That night, Emily sat alone, locked in her room. Tears rolled down her face. Her heart was broken, not just by the lie, but by the friend who had stabbed her quietly in the back. And the worst part? The story was just beginning. Emily stayed locked in her small room. The police had said they would return for more questions. Everyone now believed she was a thief. The same people who once ignored her now called her a liar, a gold digger, and a criminal. Mrs. Carter walked around the mansion proudly again. She told the workers, "She'll be gone soon. She stole from my husband. Let the law deal with her." Grace kept pretending to be innocent. She told others, "I didn't know she could do such a thing. I trusted her." No one knew she had planted the documents in Emily's pillow. Emily lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her body was weak, and her heart felt empty. She thought of her mother, her little brother, and the good times she had with Mr. Carter. She prayed again, "God, help me. Please show them the truth." The next day, while Emily was still locked away, Mr. James, the same lawyer who read Mr. Carter's will, came to the house. He brought something very important, a sealed letter. He had found it in Mr. Carter's office drawer, marked, "To be opened only if Emily is in trouble." Mr. James opened the envelope and read the letter in front of everyone. It said, "If you are reading this, it means something has happened to Emily. I knew my death would not go easy. People around me only wanted my money, not my heart. But Emily, she gave me love, care, and peace. I gave her my fortune not as a gift, but as a reward. If anyone tries to harm her or accuse her, know this, I recorded everything. My lawyer has a copy of my private notes and camera footage from my study. Emily is not a thief. She is my true daughter in spirit. Please protect her." Everyone stood in shock. Mrs. Carter's face turned white. She looked at Mr. James. "What camera footage?" Mr. James replied, "Mr. Carter had a hidden camera in his study. It recorded Grace entering the office after his death and taking those files." Gasps filled the room. Grace fell to her knees. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Madam made me do it." Mrs. Carter shouted, "Liar!" The truth was out. The police returned that same evening. This time, it wasn't Emily they came for. They arrested Grace for false accusation and theft. Mrs. Carter was also warned for her role in the setup. Emily was free again. She walked out slowly, her eyes red from crying but her head held high. The mansion was silent as she passed. No one could speak. No one could stop her. She didn't shout. She didn't fight. She simply walked back into the house that was now truly hers. And this time, everything had changed. The sun rose slowly over the mansion. A new day had come, not just in the sky, but in Emily's life. After the truth was revealed, the air in the house became quiet. No one dared to speak against her anymore. Grace was taken away by the police, and Mrs. Carter stayed in her room, full of shame. The workers who used to mock Emily now avoided her. Some tried to smile, but it was too late. Emily sat in the living room, the very place she once cleaned every morning on her knees. She looked around and let out a deep breath. Still felt like a dream. Mr. James, the lawyer, came again and handed her a new set of documents. "These are the titles to the house, the cars, and Mr. Carter's business shares. They are all in your name now." Emily's hands shook as she held them. "Thank you," she whispered. Mr. James smiled. "He saw your heart, Emily. He knew what others couldn't see." But even as she became the true owner, Emily didn't change. She didn't move into the master bedroom or send anyone out. Instead, she called the staff together. They stood in a line, heads bowed. Emily looked at them gently and said, "I know many of you didn't like me. Some of you laughed at me, called me names. But I forgive you." The workers were shocked. Emily continued, "I will not fire anyone. You can stay if you're willing to work with love and respect. But if you want to leave, I will give you your full payment." One by one, they nodded in shame. Many of them apologized. Emily accepted their words with grace. Later, she went to Mrs. Carter's room. Mrs. Carter was packing her clothes, still angry and proud. "So, you've come to throw me out?" she said coldly. Emily shook her head. "No, madam. I came to say you can stay. But only if you can live peacefully. I won't chase you. I'm not here for revenge." Mrs. Carter stared at her, speechless. She didn't say thank you. But for the first time, she didn't shout either. Emily returned to her room and looked at the mirror. She saw the same girl. Brown skin, tired eyes, quiet spirit. But something was different. She was no longer just a maid. She was a strong woman who had survived lies, betrayal, and hate. And she had done it with a clean heart. Outside the mansion, birds flew freely across the sky. The world was moving forward. And so was Emily. Emily sat on the balcony of the mansion, watching the sunrise. The breeze touched her face gently. She sipped tea from a white cup and thought deeply. She was no longer the poor maid who begged for peace and sleep. Now, she was the owner of everything Mr. Carter had left behind. But she still felt the same inside, simple, quiet, and full of love. People from the town came to visit her. Some came out of curiosity. Some came to beg. Others came to ask for help. Even people who once laughed at her now praised her name. "Madam Emily, we knew you were special," they said. But Emily knew the truth. They didn't know her heart before. They only saw her position now. Instead of being angry, she chose to stay humble. She called Mr. James and said, "I want to visit Mr. Carter's office. I want to see how he ran his company." At the office, everyone was shocked when they saw her. They expected someone proud and flashy. But Emily wore a simple gown and flat shoes. She greeted the staff with a smile and said, "I'm here to learn, not to rule." The managers were surprised. One of them said, "She's nothing like the rich women we know." Emily sat with them, listened, and asked questions. Slowly, she began to understand how the company worked. She didn't try to change everything. She only made one request: treat the workers with respect, just like I wanted to be treated when I had nothing. Back at the mansion, she made another big decision. She started a charity in Mr. Carter's name to help poor children go to school. She thought of her younger brother and the many others like him. She named it the Carter Hope Foundation. She also visited her village for the first time in years. The people ran out to greet her. "Emily, is it true? You now own a mansion in the city." She smiled. "Yes, but I am still the same Emily who fetched water with you." She built a new school and clinic in the village. She gave jobs to young people who had no work. She didn't show off. She gave from her heart. One evening, as she looked through Mr. Carter's old things, she found a small note written in his handwriting. It said, "If you're reading this, it means you didn't let the world change you. Thank you for being the good I hoped to see before I died." Emily cried quietly. She now understood her purpose. The fortune wasn't just for her. It was a tool to help others. She was ready to become more than just a lucky maid. She was ready to become a blessing. Emily's life had taken a new shape. She was now respected, loved by many, and known as the young woman who rose from nothing to greatness. Her charity work touched lives. Her village smiled again. Her mansion was peaceful. But not everyone was happy. Far away, in a quiet cafe, two men sat in a corner whispering. One of them was Mr. Harris, Mr. Carter's greedy cousin. He had once hoped to inherit the old man's fortune. When he heard that a maid had taken everything, he became bitter. "She stole what should have been mine," he told the man sitting beside him. "That girl fooled George." His friend, a shady businessman named Cole, smiled wickedly. "Let's take it back. But not by law, by power." Mr. Harris leaned in. "What do you mean?" Cole replied, "We scare her. We destroy her name. We take her down slowly. She won't even see it coming." Soon, strange things began to happen in Emily's life. One day, her charity's website was hacked. Bad messages were posted, saying she was using the money for herself. People online began to talk. Is she really honest? some asked. Another day, someone broke into her office and scattered her documents. A note was left behind. "You don't deserve any of this." Emily was confused. "Why is this happening?" she asked Mr. James. "I've done nothing wrong." Mr. James frowned. "Someone wants to ruin your name. This is no accident." Emily didn't cry. She had learned to be strong. But her heart felt heavy. She was kind, yes, but she was not weak. She called for a security team to protect the mansion and her offices. She reported the hacks and break-in to the police. Quietly, she began to search for the people behind the attacks. But she also stayed focused on her mission. She still visited the sick. She still sent children to school. She still walked with the same calm steps. People began to notice again. They said, "Even with all this trouble, she still helps others." One night, as she stood by her window looking at the stars, Emily whispered to herself, "I won't let darkness win. I didn't come this far to be afraid." But she didn't know that Mr. Harris and Cole had a bigger plan. They were not just coming for her name. They were coming for her life. The night was quiet. The wind blew softly around the mansion. Inside, Emily sat at her desk, writing thank you letters to sponsors who supported her charity. She smiled gently as she wrote each name. She believed in showing gratitude. But far outside the gates, two dark figures moved in the shadows. It was Mr. Harris and Cole. They had grown tired of slow attacks. Their lies and tricks hadn't broken Emily. People still supported her. She was still strong. So now they wanted to scare her with fear. Real fear. Cole held a can of petrol in one hand and a lighter in the other. "Tonight, we send her a message," he whispered. "Let her lose something she loves." They poured fuel along the back fence and through the garden. Then they lit the fire. Flames shot up quickly, eating through the dry plants and wooden fence. The fire moved fast, crackling loudly in the night. Emily heard the noise and rushed to the window. Her eyes widened in horror. The back of the mansion was glowing red. Smoke filled the air. "Fire!" she shouted. "Help! Fire!" Her security team acted fast. They called the fire service and grabbed water hoses. Neighbors rushed in to help. Workers from the mansion screamed and ran outside. Some tried to save things. Others only cried. Emily didn't run. She helped carry out an old woman who worked in the laundry. She helped save boxes of food meant for the village school. She covered her face and ran into the smoke to lead the guards to the fire's source. She didn't think of herself. She only thought of others. The fire service came and poured water until the fire died down. Half of the garden was gone. Part of the house was burned. But the people were safe. No life was lost. Emily stood outside, covered in ash. Her clothes were black. Her face was tired. But her eyes were sharp. Someone had done this. And this time she wouldn't just wait. She called Mr. James and the police. She told them everything she had been facing. The fake news, the break-in, and now the fire. The police promised to investigate. "Whoever did this," they said, "will not go free." The next day, Emily stood before cameras and news reporters. She spoke slowly but clearly. "They tried to break me. They burned my home. But I'm still standing. Not because I'm rich, but because I know who I am. And I will keep helping the poor. I will keep building hope." The crowd clapped. People saw her heart again. And this time louder than ever. But what Emily didn't know was that someone had recorded Mr. Harris and Cole near the mansion that night. And that video would change everything. A week after the fire, a young boy walked into the police station. He looked nervous but determined. He held out a phone and said, "I recorded something near the mansion last week." On the screen was a video, grainy but clear. It showed two men in dark clothes pouring fuel around Emily's garden. One of them turned his face slightly toward the camera. It was Mr. Harris. The police were shocked. The boy had been flying his toy drone that night and forgot to turn off the camera. That simple mistake became the biggest proof of the crime. By the next day, Mr. Harris and Cole were arrested. Their faces were shown on every news station. The world saw the men who tried to burn down the house of the kind Maid who rose to greatness. Emily was called to the station to confirm the video. She watched quietly, then nodded. Yes, she said. That's them. Justice moved fast. In court, people listened as Emily spoke. Her voice didn't shake. She didn't shout. She simply told the truth. I forgave those who hurt me before, she said. But this time the law must speak. Not for me alone, but for every poor person who is treated like they are nothing. The judge praised her courage. Mr. Harris and Cole were sentenced to prison for attempted arson, destruction of property, and conspiracy. Mrs. Carter, who had remained silent after her failed lies, quietly moved out of the mansion. For the first time, Emily stood alone in the great house. Not as a maid, not as a victim, but as a woman who had conquered pain, hate, and fire. She turned the burnt part of the garden into something new. A large playground for children from the orphanage. She planted flowers and trees with the kids. She said, "Let new life grow where others tried to bring death." People from around the country came to visit. Newspapers called her the maid who rose with grace. But Emily didn't care for fame. She still cleaned her room. She still walked around barefoot in the evenings. She still visited her village every month. She lived simply and gave greatly. One day, her younger brother, now in university, hugged her and said, "You changed the world, sister." Emily smiled. "I only did what Mama would have wanted. Stay good, even when the world is not." And that's how her story ended. Not in silence, but in honor. Not in riches, but in love. Never look down on anyone. Kindness, humility, and truth are stronger than money, power, and hate. The one they ignore today might be the one who saves them. Tomer, if you were touched by Emily's story, remember, your heart is your biggest wealth. Share kindness today. Help someone rise. Because the world needs more Emilys.